What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Bodybuilding. I'm your host, Logan Shults, and I'm here with my co-host, Ian Powell. Ian, how's your last 7 days been, brother?
It's been pretty good. Appetite has started to level off a bit for the post-show phase here. Obviously, battling a decent amount of like fatigue and overall. I think we'll get into it later as far as how that looks for people. But it's always excitement, motivation's high for people post-show. They want to train a little bit harder. You have to be able to be read in between the lines, and understand that especially now the body is pretty fragile. So running full deload this week, so I'm really actually very excited about that. So I will not be training at all for the next 7 days. Reduce my cardio down in half, just to allow the body to just really recover, sleep, nap when I want to nap. Just kind of reset fully before the off season will start next week for the following week. So just allowing the body to relax a bit. So getting into swing of things. How about your last 7 days?
Cool. My last 7 days have been chill. I mean, mostly just work. I'm working a lot right now, but really, that's about it. Nothing. I don't think nothing too special happened in the last 7 days. Yeah, nothing really worth noting. Um, so you are what now? 4 weeks post show?
Yeah, roughly about three and a half. Yeah, let's see,
Three,
3 weeks
three,
post show.
3 weeks post show?
3 weeks. Yep.
Yeah. And so you didn't take a deload those first 3 weeks. You were training, but probably not training 100%, or what?
Yeah, I was. So what I like to do in this initial kind of 2 or 3 weeks is I go back. That first week was my baseline volume from peak week, so not very much. Mostly just playing around with exercise selection, how I want to set up my new split, and then the second and third week was going back up into more of a baseline volume, figuring out what's solidifying the split really, and solidifying my exercise selection with a few variances in between, and then kind of finding where that line is, and knowing that I'm still not fully recovered, but allowing myself to deload this week because normally some people will go a little bit. Need a little bit longer before they go into an off season, and it really just depends on how people prep, right? How hard someone had to get to their weight, and what were they using, like what drugs were they using, just kind of what it took to get to that spot. Obviously, being ready for the look that we wanted to bring 2 or 3 weeks out, we were able to drop a lot of fatigue, feed appropriately, manage fatigue overall. And as I've said before, this prep was very conservative as far as PEDs go. Pulling labs this week, but there should be really nothing to worry about. But that's kind of how I set up, is just this initial first 2 or 4 weeks, just figuring out what do I need to bring up, and frequency and split, and just playing around with it and seeing, oh, I like that, or I no, I don't like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that when you're talking about that post show period of time, um, a couple of things are very, very crucial. I mean, first off, making sure that you don't binge like crazy and go insane. But one of the biggest things that I think is crucial is not training super hard. And a lot of people get stuck because you're really strong afterwards because you have so much. It's kind of fake strength is what I like to think of it as, because it's almost like your muscles and everything are pressurized, right? Like they're just really, really full. And so it's like I don't know how else to explain it other than it's pressurized, right? And so when it's like that, it's you get really strong really fast and you can lift really good weights. The problem is that your body is really not in a place to handle that, and that is by and large why I tore my pec. I was about 6 weeks post show. I think it was six, and I was bench pressing, and that's when my pec went, right? And there were no signs of it. It just was good 1 minute and was not the next. So I think that a lot of people they're so excited and they're so excited to get better that they don't take that time to properly heal and to properly get back to homeostasis, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that's it's the most frail time. Um, like I said, food's up, right? Sleep maybe drastically improves for some people right away, so you obviously feel like super kind of fresh in that sense of things, but not realizing your body is this kind of lagging effect, and obviously the more amateur, the more novice you are to it, or you could even be not even novice to it, just less educated and understand what's kind of going on in this phase. This is, like I said, this is a time really to recover, to allow yourself to have the longest and most effective off season that you can, and that's why I am not a big fan of doing aggressive things post show. Because, like I said, a lot of it's fake. It's fake water. It's water retention. It's not. It's not new tissue. New tissue. I'm sorry. It takes a lot longer. It requires more adherence, different training stimulus. It just takes a long
Mhm.
time to really build tissue. So what you're really getting those first 4 6 weeks is rapid glycogen uptake, fullness, where it looks like you've doubled in size potentially. Like if you put like
Yeah.
once I put my side by side, it looks like I've kind of doubled in size. It's just sheer fullness from the food, right, and from the recovery aspect of it. So, and this is why some people like to like say, oh, well, why don't we just keep X and X so in compounds and be really aggressive with it? Well, the rate of what you're going to need to put those in is probably going to be more aggressive. And what's going to happen after the 4 6 weeks? You're going to have to go into a health phase anyways. So
Yeah.
you're just extending your time from growing even further if you don't take this time and just recover a bit more. And I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of people that don't do this will probably fall into a more burnout situation than others because off season's long, right? So you need to take this time post show to really unwind. Don't be so anal about certain things. And I think I'm pretty good with that. Like people would say like, "Oh, full deload from the gym." That's like crazy. Like you're gonna like, how do you do that? I'm just like, well, um, for one, I'm in the gym all the time, so it's kind of a nice for me just to step away from it. But two, it just allows me to actually physically reset for how I train and for how it happened for me last off season. I just know that like it's really easy for me to redline my body very quickly with the training that I like to do. So I'm absolutely excited for a full deload and just being able to
Yeah.
prioritize rest and recovery so that I can hit the ground potentially, run in next Sunday. Now, people don't get that confused. We're not going to just all of a sudden start off season and just fucking just go full bore, right? It still takes we still want to take a very progressive approach into the off season.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah, I think that it's always so funny to me that people are like, "Oh man, like you've grown a lot." And I'm like, "No, no, I really haven't." You're between that really anytime post show to like 8 weeks is what I would say. I would say after that it tends to die down a bit. And you're probably not really experiencing a lot of that rebounding effect much more. Now, you're still leaner, so you are setting yourself up to have a better off season, but you're really not getting the same level of like your body isn't as responsive to food as what it was, if that makes sense. Like when you're in that phase, you notice if you eat a free meal, your weight might spike up and then it'll come down after you haven't had that for a couple of days, right? And so your body is really responsive in that time period to everything that you consume. And during that time period, everything that you put on, any extra weight that you gain is fake. It's not real. And after that is when you start to really put on, after you've put on a little bit of body fat is when you really start to put on size. But one of the funniest things to me is people seem to think that they look better when they are in this period of time. And I'm like, no, you look better walking around the gym because you're blasting full. Um, your vascularity is insane. You're wearing a tank top, like, and you're wearing shorts, right? But get yourself down into a thong, put on a tan, and then go stand in front of stage lights. And I promise you, it doesn't look as good. You're going to have your lines are going to be blurry. They're not going to be as deeply separated. And that's where there's a big difference between looking good in the gym and then being good on stage. And that comes down to shape as well, right? Like we know guys who look really good in the gym, but once you strip it down and you put them on a stage, it just doesn't quite translate. Um, and so I think people need to be understanding of that, if you will. So you have never run PEDs post show. I have. I've done it both ways. I have, and I have not. And I can probably create a scenario in which you can do it both ways. but I've got to say, I think I like the methodology of taking 6-ish weeks off and just running, just utilizing some growth hormone and some TRT, and then taking like you're doing a full deload week or two, and then going into the off season after that.
Yeah, I think you hit on a few good points there that I want to touch on. The fact that your body is so responsive to food during this time is exactly why you don't need to run a lot of drugs. Just allow the food, allow the recovery aspect, and allow the training aspect to just do its thing. Take its time, and I think that's where a lot of people get misconstrued, right? And you can obviously speak from this from experience, but running an aggressive protocol post show um, can just lead to more, I guess, that false kind of gains, and you're extending your health period where you're already using probably high levels of drugs into the prep, and then you're continuing to use it even more so in that post show. Food's high, motivation's high. You're creating almost a perfect storm for a potential really bad injury, and so that's going to right there cut your show life off your off season.
Mhm.
So again, and I think everybody should really do this before they go into the off season. Take a full deload off. Don't go to the gym. Um, Try to keep your habits in place. Like I'm still doing like daily cardio. I'm still doing everything that has reduced quite a bit because I'm not trying to like have any
Mhm.
fatigue. I'm not trying to make it fatiguing. I'm not trying to make up for not training. Just allow my body just to fully reset. Get your steps in. Keep the good routines and good prep habits that you have in. Just take some time off from the gym. Your body, your joints, everything else will be way more fresher whenever you go into the off season and you start actually putting on like the weights and stuff like that. But I want you to kind of go over and explain a little bit from your personal experiences of how much of a variance the post show phase from being an aggressive rebound phase or just going into like a health phase reverse, kind of like I'm doing.
So I've run a couple of different drugs in that post-show period time. Now, every time I've always kind of allocated volume, right? Like I've always decreased volume, and then we go, and we slowly increase volume over the next several weeks in trying to do so, right? But and I've run this time period anywhere between like 8 and like 16 weeks post-show. And the time that I ran it 16 weeks post show, it was because my body still looked really good and I was responding. I was seemingly responding really well, and my blood work wasn't, horrendous.
That was
Um,
16 weeks of like PEDs after the post shows. What you said?
After, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Now,
okay.
it was just higher testosterone and higher masteron for that one. But that is also the time when my hair started to thin really bad because I was on masteron for
For
a
like 30
really
weeks.
a really long time. Yeah, a really long
Yeah.
time. That's when my hair started to thin really, really bad. And then, so thankfully, I haven't done that since. But I've done Masteron, and I think I had done Deca after my first national show, or maybe after my first overall win or something like that. We'd run Deca post. And I'll be honest with you, man, I'm just not 100% certain that I grew at all during that time period. Looking back on my progression throughout the years, I'm just not sure that using those drugs really had any good effect in that post-show time period where I actually grew. And primarily, I think a large portion of that is due to the fact that I've never been ready early. Like, I've never been ready 2 to 3 weeks out. I've always been ready the week of, and sometimes not even ready. My first national show, I wasn't even ready. So, and I was doing, 2 hours of cardio at a week out, right? To try to get ready. So I think that by and large, that's probably a large portion of the reason that it never really worked. I think that if you can be ready 2 to 3 weeks out, you can rebound a little bit and that you can get some more food in you. You can drop fatigue, drop inflammation. You're not using a lot of PEDs and you're kind of just using them to manage the look, right? But you use, maybe testosterone and masteron throughout the prep, and then you use a little bit of the other things to kind of change the look at there at the end, then maybe you could get away with using a little bit afterwards. I wouldn't extend it out 16 weeks, but you might be able to do that, right? Personally, I feel like I grew best when last year I took 6 weeks where we managed the rebound much better, used growth hormone and pushed in that sense for 6 weeks or so. And then I took 2 weeks off and went to Europe and I did not train. I ate whatever I wanted for 2 weeks. I came back, I was probably like 8 pounds heavier, maybe. Um, and then after that is when we started to push into my off season, and that's where I feel like I actually did grow. Because by then my body is not hyper responsive to every little thing that I eat, but I'm still pretty freaking lean. But I've put on a little bit of body fat, and now I can train really hard, use the drugs to actually grow. That's kind of my thoughts on it and my
Yeah,
experience.
and I think right there, the body is going to be the most responsive when it's not susceptible to so much stress, oxidative stress from the cardio or from the drugs, from the poor sleep. Your body is going to be much more responsive if you are able to really kind of clear out for a little bit, drop a lot of fatigue, run a low level amount of gear. It's just you're going to be able to get away with a lot less. In that sense of things, right? Where if you can really nail down training, nutrition, and sleep, which a lot of people really fuck up on the sleep part of it, um, which is your biggest recovery tool, and this is the one that's going to allow you to get the most shredded and the biggest. I always reference this to people. You never see a wiry guy huge. And but what I mean by that is somebody that just can't sit still, that just constantly moves, or maybe they're just a little bit, more anxious all the time.
Hmm.
Um, you don't see these people who get huge. You need to be able to go into a parasympathetic system and actually relax.
Yeah.
Put on some body fat. People are always afraid. Everybody's leanness post show or their optimal leanness for growth is going to vary. Okay. There are some people that have abs year round, kind of like Logan. There's some people where my abs kind of just go away fairly quickly. But at the same time, my lines and my extremities and everything else is pretty much there. So you have to put on an appropriate level of body fat if you want to get fucking jacked. If you want to get huge, if you want to actually put on muscle tissue that sticks, you cannot go super slow in an off season. You shouldn't really go super slow in reverse, because if you go super slow in reverse, you're going to stay hyper food focused.
Yeah.
You're going to stay in a fatigue spot, and you might burn out. You might crash and burn diet wise just from diet fatigue of being so restrictive all the time. So, and that's why I made a story earlier this week. Watching like daily weights and allowing yourself to use it as a tool, right? Some people get freaked out by the weight. They'll weigh themselves one week and then they won't weigh themselves, and then they'll weigh themselves the next week and they'll be up 7 pounds. But oh, what the fuck? But if you're tracking these things and you're watching your diet and you're having off-plan meals or whatever it is, like you can see where there's changes, and you can much better grasp and hold your composition in a very good spot if you're just a little bit more transparent and a little bit more honest with yourself.
Yeah. First and foremost, before we go any further, I want to touch on something you mentioned about going slow in that rebound. And before, there's a couple of my clients that are going to watch this and they're going to know that we just got out of cut phases, but they're not ready for a bodybuilding stage yet, in that they didn't get stage lean through this cut period, and they are being slowly reversed. And this does not apply to you guys. We're not
Oh,
talking about you in this instance. We are talking
yeah.
about somebody who got in true stage condition. That's who we're talking about, okay? We're talking about those people who their bodies are tremendously stressed and they need to come out of that phase. They need the sleep, they need the food to recover, and they honestly they need the food to get them back to homeostasis and get them to a normal level of body fat where all of their hormones are functioning properly again, okay? You guys and I'm speaking to my clients that recently went through cuts and now we're slowly reversing them and getting their food up, and some of them have even lost weight as we've added more food in. But at some point, that stops. At some point it does. Just understand that this is not directed towards you in this instance. We still have more body fat to get off of you, but that needs to happen later on down the road, and it's going to happen in cycles. Okay, so there's that. There was something else I was going to mention in regards to what you were saying, but I completely forgot because I knew I needed to get that out.
Yeah, it's what we're talking about. This is a contest prep. This is somebody that got peeled, anything like that. Okay, so yeah, if you're coming off, and obviously, I have clients as well. Oh, you're done with the cut. I'm not going to slam you up three, four, five, six, seven, depending who you are, depending if you're male or female. You're still not like, you might be hungry, you might have gotten decently hungry, but like your fatigue and all these things shouldn't be crazy high. None of this should, because your body fat, once you have a certain level of body fat, keeps you very, very safe from a lot of these detriments. So for those people, yeah, just even increasing the food or even having them have like one or two off plan meals a week, and granted, y'all can go through the process and be like, what does that actually look like? To allow that body fat to slowly come up and give the person a little bit of a mental break. Yeah, totally. But this is definitely for the competitor side of things. Yeah, we're speaking to those where there's massive detriment to potentially sleep health, fatigue. I mean, all these things, right? Like, I can even tell for myself, even training this week, I still did my baseline volume and I was like, fuck, I'm sore as shit everywhere. Like,
Oh yeah.
my body is just taking forever to recover. So that's why I was like, yeah, I need a full deload because even at my baseline volume, at my moderate to, 90% of my normal top set weight, my body is
Hmm.
still fucking not recovering super well. So it's like, yeah, there's no point of me really training much harder than this. And I might as well need a deload and then build back up from there.
That's so interesting because I've never experienced that post show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I think a lot of it is, exercise selection, moving things around, and just building in an overall framework of
Yeah.
what I'm looking for in total sets. Where I'm pretty dialed in as far as how I'm
Hmm.
trying to set everything up, and maybe my body is not fully used to that yet, and it's still in a very kind of frail state. But like I said, I might just need a little bit more body fat to be put on before I can really start kind of progressing in the off season.
Well, let's talk about that really fast, and I want to talk about this because I had one of my clients see your stories about how much food you were eating, and he's like, "Hey, we're a similar body weight. Like, how the is he handling so much food? And that amount of food would make me nauseous, right?" And so there's a couple of things that I said to him, but by and large, I think that people need to understand that everybody's bodies are different, right? You can go into a period of time like where you're going to eat 1,000 grams of carbs, right, in a prep, and you might be half a pound down the next day. I cannot eat 1,000 grams of carbs in a day. We're not going to have the same effect, right? I'm probably going to do 300 to 500 grams, and that's where my body will start to relax a bit more. Whereas Ian just tends to need more food because his body tends to move in that direction much faster than mine does. So understanding that there are um, large variances in people, and I think personally, I think that this kind of makes sense in me saying that like I don't necessarily get that ridiculous soreness post show, whereas you're like, I'm so sore that I'm not recovering well enough that I need to refeed, right? And I think that those two things kind of correlate with how much food intake that you need versus how much food intake that I need. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Do you understand the core? I like, did I don't know if I worded the correlation properly, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, and also could be one of those things, kind of what I'm doing with all my training. My form is like fucking ridiculously tight. Like I am pausing the
Hmm.
stretch. I'm going out. I'm super fucking controlled. So in that sense of things, my acute level of soreness might be because I'm really actually engaging a shit ton more, actually like muscle, like motor units. So my body might be like just might be firing a bit quicker and really able to connect those connections. That's why you see people who need it to bring up a lagging body part, they might need double the volume somebody does to just maintain or even build it, right? Like our quads, both me and you quads, we don't need a lot of volume in our quads because we can really get a lot of motor units out of it. Like we can really just connect with our quads and they just grow on lower volume, which is great. But some other upper body parts, like our back, might need a little bit more volume. And again, a lot of that comes to how well do you connect to the muscle in that sense of things. But yeah, going into like the like food intake for variances between people, and I've kind of noticed this the more I've gotten further, I guess, in my career per se, is my body is very responsive both ways. I think I could put on a decent amount of tissue very quickly. Like it doesn't take a lot for me to put on tissue. It also doesn't take me a lot to go and swing back the other way.
Hmm.
So based on whichever way I want to go, I can put on fairly quickly and I can get ready fairly quickly. But it's a kind of a balance, right? Whereas like somebody like me who can go fairly quickly as far as putting on size, I also can put on body fat a bit
Right.
quicker. So my diet needs to be more kind of in check. I
Hmm.
can't do a bunch of like bullshit, off plan, greasy, fatty meals. I
Yeah.
have to stay pretty consistent. I have to keep cardio in pretty regularly, or else my body fat gets too high. But that's the side effect of being able to put on body fat strength tissue a bit quicker.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing going inverse, right? I wasn't killing myself with cardio. My food never got below 2,200 calories, really. Um,
Fuck you.
use very little drugs, right? My body just went snapped.
Yeah.
So know what you're working with, basically.
Yeah, whereas I'm much more resistant than that, right? Like so in both manners, right? I like to think that I get lean a little bit easier, but the truth of the matter is that not nearly as easy as you. So, but I also don't get fat nearly as easy, right? Like when I was 248 pounds, like I still had abs. Even so, to the point to where Barry looked at me and he goes, "Hey man, I'm not sure we're gonna make the classic cutoff this year." Right? And then I ended up losing 60 pounds. I went from 248 to 189, and that was 193 on stage. So, like,
Yeah.
if fat distribution and the way that our bodies responds are just drastically different, right? And so,
Yep.
with that being said, like, I don't get fat nearly as easy, right? Like, I can go have, if I were to replace a meal with pizza tonight, my weight is not going to be changed tomorrow. I'm going to be the exact same weight. Um, and that's just how my body is. Granted, I tend to have to do a little bit more cardio, and I have definitely gone lower than 2,200 calories for preps, even if it's only for a couple of days. Last year was probably my easiest prep in that regard, because I think I only did like 4 0 carb days in the entire prep. Whereas the previous year, I did 4 weeks of 1,600 calories and 2 hours of cardio a day. So,
Which one was your better look?
well, I mean, the more previous one was a better look. I, I think primarily I had more tissue.
And that's kind of the thing, right? Obviously want to preserve as much tissue as possible. But
Yeah.
again, the post show for everybody is gonna look very different. Regardless, male or female, don't be afraid to put on body fat. You need it to sleep, you need it to train, you need it to recover, and you need it to grow, right? Especially if like you want to actually, for classic or bodybuilding guys, you truly want to be competitive and have a shot at being a pro, man. Those guys are freaks. They are putting down the food. They are training
Yeah.
their asses off. And everybody, like I said, everybody's body's very responds very differently, right? I don't know what's the heaviest you've gotten to, right? Was it 248?
248, yeah.
Two
In the fasted first thing in the morning, 248,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Fantastic. Was that this past one after nationals, or was it the previous
No.
year?
I only got to 238 this last year in my off season, but I was
Okay.
drastically leaner than the
Yeah.
248 that I was previously at. The 248 was before I competed in 23. We were supposed to start when I started prep for North Americans and then
Okay.
ended up having to do USAs.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Why'd you have to do USA's instead? I don't even remember that.
So during prep, I went through, and I've had this happen a couple times in my life where I thought I was having a heart attack.
Oh, okay. Okay. Like
And
heart
so,
palpitations?
yeah, so like I was having a tremendous amount of chest pain.
I think I remember this.
Like it was like hard for me to breathe. It was hard for me to talk. And I was like, I called, a buddy of mine who's a nurse practitioner, and I was like, "Hey man, like I'm having these chest pains." And he's like, "Dude, I can hear the pain in your voice. Go to the hospital right now. With me on the phone, go to the hospital." And so I
Yeah.
went and I got checked up, and there was nothing wrong with me. And I firmly believe that it was just stress induced. And it's happened twice in my life, and both were during times where I was kind of like holding some things back in my life, and I wasn't addressing them. And so like if you had asked me if I was stressed, I would have said no. But the reality is that my body was taking a toll when it came to stress. Anyways, yeah, so I went to see a heart doctor, and then just to confirm, to double confirm that there was nothing actually wrong with my heart. Um, and then, in my health insurance changed, so I had to wait like 3 weeks and push it back even further. So by the time I was going to get to actually start prep for like start like the drugs and the real portion of prep for North Americans, it was too late. It was like we were like 15 weeks out. I still had a long way to go. So I just suggested that we push it to USA's because that gave us an additional like 8 weeks. And so we went from, it would have been a time crunch to we have plenty of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually brings up another point I want to bring up when it comes to the post show phase is understanding your timeline for the following year, right? That's going to let you know how aggressive and how quickly you need to start an off season. So particularly like I'm going to start my off season a bit quicker. I want to have as much time as I can. I have specific dates early in Q1, you could say, of the year where I'm going to be traveling. I'm not bucking meal planning. These are like
Yep.
vacations.
Yep.
So I need to maximize the time I need to grow. I need to watch body fat and where my weight is, because there's going to be two different times here where I'm going to have to be pretty much in decent, really good shape to make the shows that I want to make, right? And these are always often everybody can respond differently. Life can happen. Obviously, all these things are in place. Doesn't really matter. You need to have that timeline in place, right? Where I've had people who have run more aggressive protocols and they need a full 8, 10,
Yeah.
12 weeks to recover. But then these people usually don't have anything lined up, very quickly, right? I think the higher up and the more muscle you have, right? Like if I still need a shit ton of muscle, which obviously we always need to see more muscle, but the variance up to where I need that isn't nearly what it used to be
Yeah.
before. So I can do a bit quicker of a turnaround, where I'm not like having to, put on a shit ton. Now, if I wanted to jump up a class, then yeah, that'd be a little bit different.
Also, I think one of the biggest factors is health, right?
Yeah,
And how healthy you are is going to be a large determining factor of how well you put on muscle tissue or get lean for your own body, right? So I think last year I was much healthier, and that's why I was able to get leaner a little bit better in regards to prep, and then I was able to grow a bit better as well because I just maintained a higher level of health.
yeah,
And then next year or whenever I do get to compete again, it'll just be better because I know how to maintain a better level of health in that regard. Wow, I just completely blanked.
I think that goes to say like the being healthy means you are going to respond better to drugs. You're going to respond better to food. You're going to respond better to cardio. You're going to burn fat better, and you're going to build
Yeah.
muscle better.
And being healthy can also dictate what time of year it is for you, right? So in that, let's say we get blood work done a week post show. If it's garbage and your health is in the tank, right? Like we may need to take more time to get you healthy again before really starting to push, right? And a lot of times that doesn't include drastic measures. It just includes getting your body back to homeostasis, getting a baseline level of body fat put on, getting that stress reduced drastically, getting inflammation reduced drastically, and stuff like that, right? And then you can go into a health phase, right? But if you're going into it, you're already pretty healthy, and you get bloods a week post show, and you're not in a terrible state. You may be able to just do 4 to 6 weeks rather than 8, 10, or whatever it is, right? So it's just another reason to keep a close eye on your health and to maintain what is good for you year round and kind of what affects you how.
Yeah, I mean exactly that. I mean, I got bloods done 4 weeks prior to the show, 4 weeks out, and they were better than my 230 off-season blood work. And that
Imagine
tells you
that.
though, my body was very responsive in that 4 weeks. My body was not very responsive when I was 230. The health was very much that blood work told you that. Blood work said, hey, you have gained too much body fat. Your body's not going to respond as well to food or drugs or anything. The same thing goes the other way. And I think that's where you see people that usually have very tired physiques, or maybe they just compete too much and they don't want to go below their TRT dosage and they want
Yeah.
to stay higher. It's a psychological thing. I personally try to tell people not to be tied to that. I do a good job of not tying myself to these things and allow my body to fully reset. That's why I've been able to make good progress on very low things. And then obviously life stressors, like you said, in 2023 for you, your body might not be as responsive and you might not even realize it because there's life stressors that are
Yeah.
internally holding you back. I had very similar thing for me. And once I was able to kind of release that, my body just said, okay, you're fine. Like you can respond now. Like, it's something that you don't really understand. You don't really see it until like maybe something like that happens. And you're like, oh, yeah, maybe my body was, holding things back. And you see it
Yeah.
in the pro league too, as well. You might see some guy that just randomly just starts making huge jumps, but
Yeah.
they might have been in the circuit for a little while. Your
I
body's
mean,
just going to be responsive when you're healthier. It
you
is.
hear all of those guys talking about, you know, they respond better when they're healthier, when they're happier, and I think that the two coincide a lot because I think that happiness, right, is going to coincide with a lower level of stress, and a low level of stress is going to coincide with a better level of health, because I think that we live in such a stressful world today, right? We're always go go go. Um, and because of that, I think that that's where a lot of our health issues derive from. It's not so much, viruses and things like that, right? It's the cortisol, the ridiculous amounts of cortisol that we're exposed to on a daily basis because we've got to find a way to succeed and we've got to do X, Y, and Z, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, staying up late, watching your favorite Netflix, or being on your phone, doom scrolling, not allowing yourself to really sleep, recover, and stuff like
yeah,
that. I usually, if somebody is not sleeping well and they're complaining about certain things that are going on with their progress, I'm like, look, if you can't string together 7 consecutive days of good sleep, do not talk to me. Okay. Once you get that sleep figured out and fix your sleep,
yeah,
your body responds just way better. And I think a lot of that is people just don't have very good, nighttime habits or daily habits. That's why I usually tell people keep those daily habits, find a morning routine, find a bedtime routine, find an evening routine, and be as consistent as you can with that.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, is there anything you want to touch on?
Uh, nope. I This is gonna air after Prague, but let's go, Martin. Great white boy. He's
We
gonna
can
come
talk
up
about
today.
Prague a little. We can talk about Prague real fast if you want.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
don't. We don't know who's
fucking
won yet.
yeah. I have it on right now, but I think I don't know. It's on the
Has
IG.
finals started for them?
Finals have started. Yeah, wellness was first, I believe.
Okay.
I figure it might be next. The guys will come on at like 2 o'clock. They came on at 2 o'clock yesterday.
How much was that live stream?
$12.
Oh, I should have
Dude,
bought it. I didn't even buy it. I looked at it.
I've
It
yeah, I
was in
watched
some
so
other.
many of these. I can't believe it was the cheapest one all year, dude.
Yeah, it is.
I have bought like 10 shows. I've watched like 10 shows from my
Yeah,
house. It was the cheapest one
yeah.
all
You know
year.
what I really wish would happen is I really wish Olympia TV would live stream all the shows,
Buy
and
them all.
so that it was all into the
Yeah,
the Olympia TV app, and it
I'd
would
buy
make
you
it
literally
so
sub
for 100%, dude.
like 200 mix. Take it. I don't
Yeah,
care.
100%. Yeah, I agree. I would watch
Like
them all.
like direct TV, like like NFL has the game day. Like just
Yeah,
fucking put it on
yeah,
one. It's all
yeah.
you watch.
Honestly, I just had forgotten about Prague, about the live stream until after, or yeah, prejudging was over by the time I remembered to buy it. And so I was like, like it's already been seen. So, go ahead and give your initial thoughts of. I think there's only really, the top 4 or 5 that matter. And I say that because I think that there are, 2 people that deserve some mentions. But go ahead.
So yeah, it's obviously I think being last year having Sebum in the show really started to put the show out to the front and realize how good like the promoters and live stream and even the commentators. It was AJ that was the commentating. AJ's he's so funny.
I love this guy.
Very entertaining, right? Like super entertaining. Whereas like I feel like some of the Olympia TV, it's a little bit like they're having fun, they're laughing at stuff. It's almost like watching like a
Yeah.
Formula One where they're just having a good time, really enjoying it, being super excited. Oh my god, look at this striations! They're going crazy.
He loves it, bro. He
Who loves it?
loves it.
So it's cool, and they're there. They're on the floor, and they're looking at them. They're not looking
Hmm.
at them through TV and commentating. They're right
Yep.
in front of them. So yeah, this was definitely a more stacked lineup. When we did the RDP thing, man, there was missing like fucking 20 fucking people. I was like, what the hell? Where's this fucking Spanish guy, man? Like, I would have put him up there. The guy's a freak.
So I think what it is um,
I don't know. Maybe I just didn't know.
we did it a little early, yeah. And the true
What?
list released on Monday
Oh
before
my
the
god.
show. So the official list released on Monday before
So
the
we missed it.
show.
Yeah, we missed it a day or a
Yeah,
day early.
yeah. Let's talk about him. I don't know, Johan Joan. I don't know how to say his name.
Spanish guy. I'm pretty sure he's like 23.
It's fucking incredible, man.
Is that
Yeah,
crazy?
he is. Look at this guy. This is him versus Keon, right? And I don't know that this height ratio is off. I actually think that Keon is much shorter than him.
He
And maybe
is.
I can find some true pictures of this, but
He's like the same height as Samson. He's like 6 foot.
yeah, he is. He's tall.
He's tall.
Everybody makes Keon much taller than what he actually is. So like, look at this guy, man.
This guy's got all the potential in the world. Obviously, from the
Yeah.
front side, he's just fucking perfect.
From the
And
front,
then,
he's gnarly. From the back is where he lets up a lot of ground.
yeah.
Let's see if they've
And
got any
I think a lot of that is just going to be due to his age. He has big glutes and hamstrings, but to get them properly dug out like he needs to, he just
Yeah.
needs a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think that was a large part of the problem. Now, I
Which
will
clearly
also say,
he's going to be in the running very very soon.
yeah, this background sucks.
Yeah,
This
on
is
silver sucks.
terrible. Yeah, this red just does
Assumption.
not, it does not do well with the physiques.
Yes.
Yeah, you can see that little bit of jiggle. You can see he's got lines there, so it's like
Yeah.
almost there from the back.
Yeah. It's still very good, and he will definitely win pro shows with this. But to Olympia, it's a different level for sure.
For sure.
Which
Yeah,
he'll
but
be
like
there. He'll be there.
you can see here, he's just a little thin through these hamstrings.
Yeah.
He's still a little soft through the hamstrings and glutes. His back is pretty good,
Shoulder
but
size is pretty much there at 23. So
yeah, exactly. Fuck him, man.
and,
23 years old, bro.
and his shape, right? Like
Yeah,
he has that mutant
his
grip
shape
like
is
Nick,
beautiful.
but
Yeah.
just way better shape.
All right, I think the star of the show is Martin,
Yeah,
and I
Martin
think you
look at
agree
that.
with me.
And
Yeah.
like so you can tell immediately when somebody how they pose, how they feel about their look.
Oh yeah. He
He
knew
came
he
out
was
there
bang
and
on.
he knew he was absolutely peaked like perfect.
Yeah.
Look at that shit. Nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, so
He improved that front lat look like too. That looked like he got much better into that one.
I'm honestly, I wouldn't be mad if they gave it to Martin, and I honestly think that he might deserve it. Now, obviously, we're not there in person. We're just looking at videos and pictures, which some of these videos are really good despite the back. Like this is a pretty good video, right? Like look at how dug out this hill is, man.
Yeah.
The
And
density and shape.
for reference for people, I've talked about it a few times. He's someone who responds really well to food, so he needs a
Yeah.
shit ton of food, and he doesn't need a lot of cardio.
Yeah, correct.
He gets in crazy shape.
Yeah.
So very, very similar in that sense of just how the body is very, very different. Whereas some people and everybody is different. You can see that with Samson, right? Samson, there he is. That's a yes.
This
There you go.
is this
A
a
little
good
dark.
video or not? Yeah, I think it is.
So dark.
Let's see that. Wow, we get these good videos of these other guys, and then Samson's
Samson
is terrible.
got dogged.
Keon did too.
Keon got
There was
dogged.
I did see a really good video of Samson here. Picture. Here's here's some here's some pictures. But so I think Samson put on back on all of his size. I think that he's absolutely massive again, and he looks like it. But I think the problem is that he is a little too full, and that his lines are blurred on his legs. I think that his upper body looks insane, but his quads from the front are just a little bit too full. Absolute
Yeah,
unit, bro.
but as you can see, like some people look better as a flat look or
Yeah,
flatter look. Some
yeah.
people need to be blasting full. Like he is somebody that has to be blasting full.
I don't know about
Yeah, he could,
blasting full, but I think
and,
yeah,
and he but for somebody like him, it's much easier to be blasting full and then to pull off from that than it is to feed him into it.
yeah, 100%.
Way different.
Yeah, I think that they were just too drastically too flat at the Olympia, and like I think I sent you guys a video. We saw him at 295 and then 300, and I think the 295 was a better look. That was 15 pounds up from the Olympia from what we were told, anyways. And I just thought the lines in his legs looked drastically better than they did here. But he's still a freak, man, and they could give it to him. But I personally, I think that him and Martin have comparable shape. I think that for their frames, they are comparable muscularity. Now, obviously, Samson is bigger, um, but then I think Martin's conditioning and hardness, for me, gives it to him. However, we're not there in person, so who knows?
Yeah, I definitely think the edges to Martin right now, but then who we got in third? We got Cruzo in third potentially, or that Joe that Spanish guy.
I think it's Crizzo.
I think it's Cruzo third, and then I think it's Spanish guy, and then obviously Keon fifth, which is what everybody think.
Yeah,
Thought as soon as Keon goes open, he's going to be fucking battling Derek. He's going to be the. I was like, it's not as simple as that. Okay, it's not. It's not as
yeah.
simple as that.
I mean, hell, I had Keon in second place,
I think I have
but
him third.
I underestimated how short he is, um, and how small he looks next to those guys. Now, Keon looks insane by himself, and he looks insane in a 212 lineup. But then when you get here, like you can see that Keon's head is at Samson's shoulder, right? Martin's head is at Samson's nose. So take that into like even when people are doing side by sides and they're looking at Keon versus Martin or Keon versus Joan or Keon versus Samson, they're making Keon way larger than what he is. And when you see it like this, then you see that there's a drastic difference. And there lies the problem. So this picture's actually got Martin in that number one spot.
Sure, it's not. It's
But I
not
think
showing.
they were switching. Oh shit, I'm sorry. Screen. Sorry about that.
But
There we
yeah,
go. Um, okay, so now you can see that Keon's head is just at Samson's shoulder versus, Martin's much taller. Um, I don't think this is how the call out ended. I think this is probably just first look because I
no,
believe Samson ended up in center.
yeah. And then Cruzo's were
Rizzo
Samson's.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
Joe, yeah. So
Well, I do think Keon should and deservingly should go to Open because I think he obviously every bodybuilder's journey. If you have the potential to be in the Mr. Olympia Open call out, that is truly the ultimate thing.
yeah.
But again, he could just dominate 212 if he wants to and do a Flex Lewis thing. Sure.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that if he loses to Crizzo here, I mean, Crizzo's not even a top 15 guy. I think he has been top 15, but
What Chris
did
was like?
did
Chris was like 7 or 8 last time he competed.
what?
2024.
But Crizzo didn't make the Olympia this year, right?
No, he didn't make it. He didn't go this year.
That's what I'm basing it on.
Okay, okay.
Now maybe that's because he didn't compete. I'm not
I,
sure.
I think it's because he just didn't compete. I mean, he's definitely a top 10, top 8 guy. He's just
Yeah.
look at his
Okay.
fucking shoulders and arms. Good
Even
God.
if you go with a top 10 guy, Keon didn't beat him, right? Um, I think by and large, Keon's biggest problem is his diastasis rectus
Yeah, for sure.
right there, right? I think that he's going to have to get that fixed before being a competitive in the open.
Yeah. Do you know how that happened?
Now, I believe it's a genetic thing, but
The fuck did they
I
fix that?
I do also believe that to some degree his seems to be getting worse though. So I almost think that he has a herniation in that there's that tissue that lies between the abs, and I forget what
Yeah.
it's called right now, but I think that has split open a bit more, and it's almost a hernia
You looked like
because it's
Keon 2023 because I don't remember this being an issue until very, very recently.
he's always had it, but it's never been that bad, and
Uh,
now it seemingly is really bad. Um,
Google it. You might need to
I
Google
might
it.
have to Google him.
Yeah, because everything else is probably going to be fairly recent. Google Keon 2023. So that's just 2 years ago.
Yeah, give me just a second. Let me go screen.
Oh, tip.
Let's go window. So, oh, I hate that Bing does this. I would rather use Google.
Oh, man, Bing's gay.
Terrible. Yeah, I know. Okay, so
Keon.
let's see here. When he's pulling a
Yeah,
vacuum, it's not quite as noticeable.
yeah, it's probably why. Logan when he was classic and natural. Okay,
It's
that's,
there.
yeah, you can see it there.
I don't know what year that is though.
2024, it
That's
says.
2024, so that's last year.
Yeah, click that ab and thigh one where it's classic trunks. Where'd he go? Up there to the right.
here. Yeah, so see,
Yeah, you can see it.
it's still there, but now if you look,
It's not
compare
nearly as
that
bad.
to, I just saw
Like
a
2019, look
picture.
at that shit.
Yeah, no, that's not nearly as bad, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you have this, and this is just 2024. This isn't even 2025. 2025 is the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna be doing something with
But
his
you
training
see
or
you
something.
you see that it's getting bigger. It's getting
Yeah.
worse.
It's getting more gutty too.
Yeah, I think that I really think that he might have a hernia there, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Now maybe not, it's speculation, but uh, for my own opinion, before he's able to put on, because he's going to need what, probably 10 pounds to compete in the open competitively.
Hmm.
He's going to have to get that fixed. That's just my opinion. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but
I think so.
it's just gonna. I mean, it's turning into kind of Phil Heath problem, you know.
Right.
So, anybody else you want to talk about?
No, not really. Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting people in the second call out, but you can tell the very drastic difference between that first and second was
Yeah,
pretty noticeable at that
pretty big.
level.
My
Yep.
wife is cooking something. It smells good, and my mouth is watering now.
Oh, are you training today?
It smells something sweet. Yeah, I got to go train legs.
Okay.
So, all right, brother. Well, that cuts it for another episode. We'll see you guys later. Later, brother.
Later.